In this video, I create a rainy window portrait in a small home studio. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And today you join me inside my small home studio, which is lucky because outside it's cold, wet and rainy. Except we're actually going to make it rain in the studio as I'm going to create a rainy window portrait. Now to do this I need a few bits of kit. It all starts with flash and I've got my Streetlight 360 on a glow softbox up there, but we also need a small speed light as well, and that's just the lights, that's all we're going to use. The window, well, no actual windows involved, in fact it's this. This is a sheet of 3mm Perspex and that is going to become our window once we set everything up. So, well, let's get a model in, let's get shooting. Today I've been joined in the studio by Beth, who's going to be the model for this shoot. Now, she's already positioned behind our window, but for the light, well, I've got a large softbox and a Streetlight 360, so just a single light source. I want to try and create the look and feel of an overcast, cloudy day, so a big softbox is the way to go, and also an elevated light source, because of course the light's going to come down from above. Now, we've got Beth in front of a black background. I want it to be dark in the background because if she was inside, it would be darker inside than outside. So that kind of works. I've metered this out at f11. Let's just take a picture with the single light and see how it looks. Beth, are you ready? Okay, here we go. And that's great. We get a nice, well-exposed shot behind a rather tatty-looking piece of plastic, but it works. So to create the rain, I'm going to use a water spray, and I'm just going to spray the glass in front of Beth. Are you ready? Here we go. Now, how much of this you put on is entirely up to you, because it's going to change the look and the feel. I think I want quite a wet day. We're in the UK here. We're used to a bit of rain, so let's get quite a bit of water on there. Now you can add as much water as you like to this. It's going to affect the look and feel of the shot. So maybe add a little to begin with and then build it up as you go through. Okay, let's take a test shot and see how this looks. Here we go. And it looks lovely. It doesn't affect the exposure at all, of course, but it does affect the look and feel of the picture. And at f11, that means I've got enough depth of field to get the water drops and Beth's face in focus at the same time. Now, if you wanted to do a variation of this, you could just change the depth of field, reduce the flash power, go for a shallower depth of field and maybe just have the water drops in focus or just the model's face in focus. Now, I talk about depth of field in another video, but for now, I want everything in focus, but I also want a bit of detail in the background. To light the background, I'm going to use a second light, a little speed light. So this is just a flash point zoom lithium ion speed light. Let's pop this around the back. Now I want to be careful that it doesn't actually hit the back of Beth, so I'm going to aim this at the background like that. Let's take a shot like that, see how that goes. Here we go. Now that looks really good, but maybe it's not bright enough. Well, I can actually change the power of the speed light remotely using the remote control and get it a bit brighter. Here we go. And I think maybe that's just a little bit too bright, so I think in the end I'm going to go somewhere in the middle, but that just helps to separate Beth out from the background and give this a bit more depth to the image. Okay, so that's the basic setup. Let's take some pictures. Beth, are you ready? Okay, there we go. So we got some nice little shots there. We had some nice little things set up, some props for Beth to interact with. That worked really well, but I reckon there's another shot if we just rotate everything 90 degrees. That's just going to take a moment. Hang on there. Beth, if you want to step out for me. For the second setup, what I've done is I've literally just taken the entire set, turned it 90 degrees, but you will notice one thing has changed. It's the background. I've swapped from the black background to the grey background. Now, the only reason I've done that is because I'm working in a small home studio and space is at a premium, and I don't have any room to get a second flash in there and separate out the light. So to make sure that the background doesn't go pure heavy black, I've gone for a grey rather than black. That's the only difference. However, in moving things around, I've lost a bit of water, so we'll just spray a bit more water onto the background. There we go. And I'm going to shoot this in a different direction. So where before I was shooting this way, I'm going to turn myself 90 degrees as well. So I'm going to shoot from the side and have a sort of glancing shot down through the side here. Now, in order to get this to work, I want a shallower depth of field, because shooting at this angle is really going to lend itself to a shallow depth of field. We'll have some in focus and out of focus areas, but that means I need to re-meter this light for f2.8, which is as wide open as this lens will go. So let's just check the meter reading for that. Here we go. And that is f2.2, so it's almost there. We just need to pop it up slightly. f2.8. Okay, so correct exposure. Beth, are you ready? Let's take a few shots like this. So Beth, I'd like you to look out the window. That's it, just like you were before. Brilliant. Okay, so there we go. We've got some great photos there. This was a really simple but so effective technique. Now, to make this really work as a window, we've got a little bit of Photoshop work to do, and I'm going to do that right now. There's really only one thing missing from my fake window, and that's the outside world, because, well, it didn't exist. It was a fake window in a small home studio. That's what I'm going to add in Photoshop, the outside world. And to do it, you can use almost any image. Let me show you what I mean. So this is the picture I want to add in my reflection of the outside world, and this is the outside world I want to add in. Now, it doesn't have to be this image, but this is a previous Adorama TV where I did a 15-minute photo challenge in this location, so I kind of thought it'd be good to use it again. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just go to Select and All, and then go over to Edit and Copy. So this gets copied into the computer memory, go back to the main image, and choose Edit again, and this time Paste. Now, when I paste it, it's going to fit perfectly because they were taken with the same camera, but it doesn't really allow me to see through it because I need to change the layer blending mode. So over here on the right-hand side where it says normal, if I drop that down, I'm going to find screen, and screen is going to be the blending mode that's going to make the magic happen. Now, at this stage, it still doesn't look quite right. So let's come over to the opacity, and on the opacity, I'm just going to drop it down probably to around about 30 to 40%, something like that. Now, at this point, you could stop here because in a way it does kind of look a bit like a reflection, but for me, it's just a bit too sharp, a bit too defined. I like my reflection to be a lot blurrier, and this is why you can use almost any image whatsoever. Let's have a look. So I'm going to come back to my menu at the top and choose Filter, and then I'm going to come down to Blur, and Gaussian blur, and I'm going to blur this a lot, and I do mean a lot. The more I blur it, the less distinct it becomes. I don't want to see this line here, for example. I could keep it in, there's no reason why not, but I think I just want a sort of a generic blurry mess, so probably something in around about sort of the 80s, I think, 70 to 80, that looks fine. I'll click OK, and that gives me that lovely misty blur that's a reflection, but it's not a reflection. I could even perhaps just drop the opacity ever so slightly lower just to bring that down so it does an effect, but it's not overly clear what it does. So that's without, and that's with. And you can see how that just makes it feel a lot more like a real window, because that's how real glass windows work. And there you go. There's my final rainy day picture completed. I'm really pleased with how that came out, and it was incredibly simple to do. All we needed was a bit of water and a sheet of Perspex. Now, if you want to see more videos from myself and the other amazing presenters right here on Adorama TV, you know what you've got to do? You've got to click on the subscribe button. And of course, if you like this video, please leave a comment below or check out the Adorama Learning Centre for loads more photography tips and tricks. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.